Holy crap, that's such a hit.
So they released their top 10 offenses. Colorado's number 8.
This moment in sports history will be remembered as one of the better fights, man. Like,
Put the cherry on top, they played Austria today. Guess the score of that game? 32 to 25 to not medal for bronze.
Hello and welcome to episode 14 of Bros in the Bleachers podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Drew.
and I'm Jake. Welcome back to the Bleachers, folks.
That's right. Jay, clap it up. 2 more subscribers to the show. 2 more Bleacher Bros
Hey,
added
let's
to
go.
the Bleachers.
There might just need to be 2 rows now, Drew. Come on, let's keep filling up those bleachers.
We're going to have a roster soon. We're going to have a 53-man roster soon.
Let's go.
That's what we might call it. We might call these first 53 subscribers a 53-man roster here in the Bleachers.
I like it. Hey, first on the team, first on the roster. Let's go. Let's keep it going.
Comment if you're a 53-man roster subscriber. But how you doing, Jake?
Hey, I'm doing well. We're filming on Sunday just after the morning slate, 10 games in the morning. Got cooked, but that's what we're here for. We're here to talk about it all day, all afternoon. So that's what we're here for.
Nothing like getting your face kicked in while placing on Sunday morning.
I will tell you that I heard that this is the most amount of Sunday morning games since I want to say it was like the 2010s or 2010, if not that. So shout out the NFL for giving us a good 10 game morning slate.
I kind of like that. I personally enjoyed having it all at once versus like, oh, the Thursday game, and then, oh, it's a holiday, and then it's a Friday. Just give me it all at once. I want to be just save it all up.
I don't mind the spreading it out through the week, but I will tell you, I do like when it's just fully front loaded in the morning. And then like a speckled game in the afternoon. I'm probably either falling asleep or recording a podcast when the afternoon games are going on.
Yeah, we are recording currently during the Broncos and Pittsburgh Steelers game, Cardinals, Rams, and Chiefs, Bengals. But we're not going to get to football yet. That's later to come. We're going to get right into college football slate. We have a few games that we saw. Some of the big games. Did you watch Georgia versus Kentucky?
I saw a little bit of it and I saw some of the highlights, but let me tell you that Kentucky team, a little scary.
Oh my God. This Carson Beck sucks. This dude stinks. Stinks.
Heisman stock is definitely tanking on my guy. I saw that he was dropping down at least 4 or 5
Heisman
spots.
stock's like out of the top 20. This dude didn't show up for the first half.
Not good. Not good.
Like, come on. Like, dude was probably had less than 60 yards. He did figure it out in the second half, but oh my God, it was terrible. And the run game with I believe what's his brother's name? Trevor Etienne was helping them carry the load. And Mike Stoops, what are you thinking? Go for it. Who cares if it's 4th and 6? Go for it. You have a chance to win the game. Why are you going to trust your defense? Who cares? It's the number 1 team in the country.
You play to win the game. We've covered it many times over the podcast. I saw one clip online where it was a potential where the Georgia receiver basically caught it, then rolled over, and it basically just popped right into a Kentucky defenseman's hands, and he ran it back for a pick six, but ruled that it hit the ground. But obviously, that was a pretty electric game. And to your point, I think that Carson Beck didn't really show up. Kentucky did. I think they were pretty pissed after losing to South Carolina, and they showed up too. I mean, hell, that was a great game too.
Yeah, that LSU South Carolina. I didn't get to watch too much of it because there's a lot of games to cover, but that's what I saw out of Georgia, Kentucky.
Well, hey, on my side, I'd say the game of the week that I was following was the Alabama game. Again, Alabama, Wisconsin. I'm a big fan of the morning games, so just getting that right off the rip was awesome. Alabama winning 42-10. I don't think anybody didn't see that coming, but lines were a little bit scary going into the game. I saw them at minus 15.5 prior to the game. Personally bought it down to 9.5 and had Milroe for 2 rushing touchdowns. So we walked out like a bandit. But I mean, he again is just adding more and more kind of gasoline to that Heisman stock fire because he went 12 for 17, 196 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, along with 14 rushes, 75 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns rushing. So 5 touchdowns on the day for Alabama. And it was a little bit of a mollywhopping. I know that Wisconsin lost their starting quarterback. And again, we never want to kind of pray into injuries and all those types of things. But man, Alabama looked good.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say I'm a coward. I saw it was down 3-0 in the first quarter. I was driving home from work and I thought to myself, well, I mean minus 10 and a half, they or minus 8.5. They surely I should take this live, and I did it, and they end up winning by 32.
It happens to the best of us. But hey, Alabama, again, kind of walking into one of the first ever matchups that they've had against Wisconsin. That was one of the quick bugs that I saw prior to the game, too. I guess they've only played three, this being the third of their three ever matchups, one of them being in 2015, the other one being in 1928. So definitely not a huge history of Alabama, Wisconsin playing each other, but Alabama now has the series lead 2-1. So the Badgers better watch out.
Yeah, old Badgers got a bye week and they have to go against an offensive USC team that we've talked plenty of shit about. And look, the way it's looking now, I think USC should cover that game too.
Yeah, USC definitely had a little bit of a wagon against them. I'm going to talk about the other California school if you don't mind me jumping in. I'm going to go with the Indiana game versus the Bruins in LA. And man, Indiana just looked like the better team, 42-13 final score. Indiana coming in at -3.5 going into the game. It was one of those games where I didn't really have to watch the second half, and I kind of knew what was going to happen. Again, Indiana really had it from the rip. UCLA actually the first offensive play of the entire game was a fumble as well. So I really think that at the end of the day, Indiana and those Big Ten schools are just kind of showing up, and they're really throwing an elbow to some of these former Pac-12 schools right now. I'll tell you.
I know. I know that UCLA offense is really bad, but they're gonna have some dark times to get through what they're
Yeah.
going through right now.
And they did not have a good secondary. They weren't making easy tackles from their linebacking core. There wasn't really a ton of pressure on the UCLA quarterback. So at the end of the day, it was a terrible showing from UCLA. I don't know if I'm truly buying Indiana all the way, but definitely was an easy cover for their money line for sure.
If with their coach Signali, the guy who went from JMU to there, I'm sure if he recruits his butt well and he gets some decent players, they could probably be a good team in 2 to 3 years.
That was the main reason why I was on it as the former JMU coach. I feel like there's just so much juice from him. It's kind of like when PJ Fleck left Western Michigan and went to Minnesota. Like there's like kind of big jumps like that have happened where they bring the culture. So I don't know. It definitely something I'm curious to see.
It'll definitely be an Indiana team where, hey, we're undefeated, and then you go into Ohio State and then just get rolled.
Yeah, you're just getting a hard elbows.
But hey, like for those few games, but watch out. Hoosiers are here.
Hoosier Nation.
I'm gonna go next, and I'm gonna dump on FSU versus Memphis. Oh my
Just so
god,
gross again, man. You
I
need
don't know.
DJ, you need to get a job is becoming trending on Twitter at this point. It's definitely a tough beat for my guy.
DJ, you need to get a plane ticket because you might need to
Yeah,
enter the portal like soon, like in November.
again, again, man. Yeah, no, that was definitely not a good showing from FSU and Memphis. I mean, covering a decent line, obviously coming in as a underdog favorite. I think the money line was something close to like plus 250. So again, just came in and throttled FSU.
Yeah, I watched some of that game on the quad box I had for YouTube TV, and every time I would see it, he was getting sacked, wasn't getting the ball downfield. Maybe there's a few big plays, but nothing to muster a win.
Yeah, again, I think it was just one of those things where we saw that offense really just kind of turtle back into themselves, and it's the classic DJU that we've now seen is where it's quick little dump down passes, and they try to make a huge play out of it, and in some offenses it works, right? Like, I think it'll kind of perfectly segue into our terrible torture show that we had with KSU in Arizona. But there's some offenses that can just dump off screen patterns, and they've got great offensive lines that can get downfield, be able to make a downfield block, and hopefully be able to break away for those big plays. But man, FSU just doesn't either have the athletes to be able to make it happen. It's the scheme. It's just the aura. They need to sage the locker room. I don't know what's going on, man. It's crazy.
It seems as if that last year's team, all the talent left, and it's kind of like Michigan. I guess it seems as if I don't know what their recruiting class was like or where they ranked for this incoming freshman class and whatnot or transfers. But yeah, no, I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if it's the players. Who knows?
And I mean, let's be real now at this point. Like we've seen some Florida, we've seen Miami, we've seen other Florida teams in general at this point really like come out and shove it in these early weeks. And I think that if any recruit that's in the state of Florida or is thinking about going to college in Florida probably isn't thinking about FSU too highly at the moment. And it doesn't look like it's getting any better anytime soon.
Yeah, Mark Norville will have his hands full. His seat's pretty hot being 0-3.
That it is. And I think that he's probably out of a job relatively sooner than later. I'll tell you a job that definitely made me feel like my ass was on fire, and that was the Arizona versus KSU game. Um, man, I mean, Arizona plus 7.5 going into the game, obviously crumbled to a 31-7 defeat. Um, One of those games where you really just did not want to watch it after you had a couple of big miss errors. I mean, obviously the Dylan Edwards punt return touchdown, I think really set the tone for KSU, and that environment in Manhattan is just unreal, man. So tough one to watch.
Anybody who's listening to this right now is like, we don't care. I'm sorry, we
Exactly.
don't.
Yeah,
Nobody
no
listens.
one cares except for us two and a handful of other people. But holy moly, man. I feel like the biggest thing that we learned from this game is that like this Big 12 competition is real. Like we thought that we might be able to just kind of walk in and take your conference. And no, it's definitely going to be a dogfight, even though this is a game versus Wildcats. But it's going to be a dogfight for the rest of the year.
Now, it is a big, everybody's been saying that this didn't count as a Big 12 conference loss, so that's a big plus. But just that offense was so bad, so many holding penalties, so many unnecessary arrows that just set us. We had a 1st and 30. Like that's how
Yeah,
bad it was in the first half, and it was still a close game. It was 14-7. I mean, we got out,
right.
got the keys, drove down the field, probably a 7-minute drive, and scored. And then that was it. Didn't see the end zone for the next what, like 50 minutes of the game.
Tough, man. And I think that where we're at right now as a program, we've got some big games that are coming up on the schedule. So we're just gonna have to sit back and watch. But I will tell you the T-Mac Tederayo McMillan performance that we still saw of 11 catches and 138 yards is still unreal. He's making juke pattern catches, like the routes that he's running, the ability of being able to get over defensive backs. Like that's why you love watching a guy like that. But again, that's a cherry on a shit Sunday right there. It's something that was not super fun for Arizona fans on Friday night.
If anything, that our run game stinks. Stinks on ice. Quali Conley is not a bell cow. He was the one who came from San Jose State with Brennan. We need Krosky Merritt. I'd suck so much that Mark Emmerich. I hope Mark Emmerich chokes on water. To put it nicely, so Krosky Merritt, I think, could be the bell cow running back we need in that backfield, and it sucks not having him because Quali Conley does not energize that team. It does not help Noah get better looks with the play action. And Dino Babers needs to scheme this offense way better. I think just I don't know. I don't know what else needs to be done, but offense was
Well,
the big
hey,
problem.
for as much as you're kind of taking a hit on Conley, I will tell you that there early in the game, at least, there were a couple of possessions where we were running like an I formation, like true like power O, like, and he's able to like follow a fullback, and like the offensive line is actually pushing and like doing what they're supposed to do. And again, maybe that's early stamina, maybe that's the game plan changing differently throughout the game, but it looked good for a couple of those larger runs. And then I think that KSU just really had those defensive ends that were either faster, more athletic, hungrier, whatever you want to call it. But man, that was not a super fun game to watch at the end.
No, it wasn't, and it should have been a lot. It could have been a lot closer game with the offense because I feel like the defense did their job. Whether you the K State quarterback Avery Johnson, not a great passer, but he did run the ball on us, and we couldn't contain him. But I mean, 31 points against a team like that with an offense who's just getting off the field and not really putting up points to help out the defense. Yeah, not something not really their fault, so to say.
Yeah, I mean, KSU is known for beating you on all three sides of the ball, from the offensive, defensive, special teams. Like they ended up obviously getting the special teams touchdown that in some games really ends
Oh,
up being the dagger, but holy moly,
yeah.
let me tell you, like it was not fun watching that game. But we can move on. What other games
Yeah.
do you want to talk about? Holy shit, that was not fun.
Suck it, Jetfish. Suck it. UW sucks. You lost. You lost the Apple Cup. You suck. You suck.
Rotten apple, baby. That was
Put that apple in his mouth and roast it over the fire pit because Cougars are having some lunch meat on that Husky, baby.
I love it. I love it. And listen, that game, it was definitely fun to watch. And I'm very happy the results came out the way it did because if Arizona was going to lose in the fashion that they did, I do not need to see Jedfish winning rivalry games. That's just not fun for me, man.
Yeah, suck it. I was upset because I had the over in that game and they only put up 13 points in the second half, but that doesn't matter. I will be happy enough because UW lost, and that's all I care about. That's all we care about.
That's all we care about. There's always the Cougars.
Yeah, always Wazzy around. But that'll wrap up our college football, and we get on to the NFL. A lot of games. We had the Big Ten game slate for the 1 p.m. games, like we mentioned earlier. So let's start it off with Thursday. We have the Dolphins versus the Bills. Mike McDaniels is the biggest moron, and I hate him now.
Okay, well, I was gonna go into it as well, but please kick us off if you're gonna lead off with a big old hit like that.
You might be wondering, oh, Drew's angry. He probably bet on the game. Yeah, I did bet on the game. I had the over, and this douchebag couldn't kick a field goal. Like, come on.
Killing me.
He could have just take the points. You could have just beat down 31-13, kick a field goal, and then but no, you had to risk your quarterback slide for the fourth time. Fourth time. And now this kick down two of them might never play football again because of him.
Yeah, man. I don't know. That was again one of those games where it was the Bills always from the jump. It was something that we were a little bit scared about. Address the rumors that we were getting on TikTok as well. There was an error on our side. We did say that it was Miami at Buffalo. We all know that it was Buffalo at Miami.
It was
But
Hard
listen,
Rock's fault. It's Hard Rock bet. And if you guys want to do one of sponsors in the future, I'm sorry, but you maybe will be more supportive if you get your home and aways right. But continue,
exact.
Jake.
Yeah, so we saw it on the screen. It ended up going awry, but listen, I'd rather go 0 for 30 than 0 for 9 because 0 for 9 means to stop shooting. So, listen, when it comes to the Buffalo game, I think that the biggest thing that I was kind of missing from that game is I feel like that offense on the Buffalo side, obviously it ran cohesively, like they were able to get a ton of points on them, but at the end of the day, like I feel like Keon Coleman and other receivers just aren't getting super involved. Like I saw like Shakir get involved, and that was kind of a fun thing to see. But I don't know. I think that maybe like Gabe Davis leaving is a little bit bigger of an impact than we really thought. What are your thoughts?
Well, it was the James Cook show for that whole first half with
Right,
3 touchdowns. I was elated with him being on my fantasy team. But I guess Josh Allen doesn't really need to do that. If that run
right.
game is performing the way it did and they're able to do the play action, the screen pass with James Cook, I don't think he really needs to do that. And that Bills defense also just laid down the hammer and they were able to stop the Dolphins, which was quite impressive versus the game they had against the Cardinals offense, which we will get into later.
Yes, we will. No, and I think that again, at the end of the day, we saw some big things out of the Buffalo team, and again, Miami's in kind of a scary spot right now. We don't really know what's going to be going on with Tua. If you're going through the rest of the season with Skylar Thompson, I pray for Miami fans. It'll be a hard rest of the season to watch for sure.
Ain't that the truth? And we're gonna mosey on over to today's game slate. Did you watch the Raiders and Ravens at all? Because that game, down to the wire, was interesting.
Yeah, I obviously I don't think anybody was expecting it to go the way that it did, but a couple of kind of late touchdowns. I saw the one from Zay Flowers. I saw the one from Devontae Adams. So again, I think that there's some kind of big magic that we saw from these teams. Maybe Gardner Minshew heard all of the trash that was going on about Aiden O'Connell needing to be back at the starting position, and he really just showed up. But going into Baltimore, man, and being able to have that close of a game, that was pretty badass.
It was close the whole time. I was really impressed. This Ravens defense really just let just laid down and just let Gardner cook 30 for 38. So almost 80% completion rate. That's ridiculous.
That is insane. And I mean, there have obviously been some great quarterback performance that we saw last week, that we saw this week. But I mean, damn, being able to be that efficient right now, especially in the NFL, is nuts.
But Lamar, could you imagine Lamar being 0-2 right now? 0-2.
Yeah, that scary sight.
And they got to go to your team next week.
They do. And if we're going to talk about my team, we might as well talk about
No,
that.
we'll save that for later. We'll save
Oh,
that for
okay.
later.
Okay. Okay.
We'll save that for later. We're gonna go over into the worst possible game. Um, Browns versus Jaguars. Did Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson have a Freaky Friday? Did they switch? They switch switch
That's
bodies?
that is great. I will tell you that was the game that didn't really make the screen too much. I did not have a ton of interest in it. I saw that it was pouring rain at the end. I saw that Trevor threw a ball that was intercepted right at the end of the game again. Um, I'm starting to not feel super impressed by Trevor Lawrence, man. And it's one of those things where I feel like this is starting to be a regression, and I don't want to call it that, but it's definitely starting to feel like it.
Well, he also got the huge contract this offseason, or was it last year?
I think it was last year.
Okay, well, yeah, great investment. The return on investment is not looking that great.
Yeah, not looking great. I don't know though. I think that the Browns team doesn't really take me as one that I'm like super bought in on. Obviously, I feel like we saw them get absolutely exposed last week. And again, this week playing against the Jacksonville, I don't know. We'll see how the rest of the season chip comes out. Obviously, I think we're all looking ready for Nick Chubb coming back in a few weeks too. That'll really be the true test.
That'll be a very big boost for them. That'll really help. Jerome Ford had a decent run, but yeah, maybe Deshaun Watson. I don't know. He stinks still. It's remained to be seen as if he has any talent. They play the Giants next week. Maybe it's a get right game for the Browns. We will see.
Maybe. I know that Deshaun had one QB sneak today, and as soon as he started doing it, immediately in my mind I said, "Oh, he's just looking to try to sacrifice his body and get hurt at this point. Just guarantee the money and walk out, man." Like that, it just does not look like he really wants to be there. I know that that's like the ongoing joke on social media right now, but I mean, he kind of balled out. Are we calling it that
That's the
just because they
Jaguars.
won? Right? It's the Jaguars. It was a little rainy. I don't know. I'm not buying it.
Yeah, well, we're going to move on from that game to the absolute shellacking of the Chargers beating the Panthers 26-3.
Yeah, that was
Chargers
gross.
defense, if you had it in fantasy, good for you
I
because
did.
they absolutely wrecked the
Yeah.
Panthers.
I feel like that was an easy one. Like obviously the lines were a little awkward going into the game. I saw that the Chargers were -5.5, and the result did not come anywhere near that. The biggest thing that I was on that game was a J.K. Dobbins touchdown and J.K. Dobbins just being able to hit his rushing overs, and he balled out today.
I'm happy for him. He deserves all the success after
100%.
ACL, Achilles, absolute warrior to continue putting up those numbers from being so sick in college at Ohio State to now just finally, hopefully staying healthy and remaining healthy. Next is should Bryce Young retire and go to the XFL and then maybe come back so he doesn't have to play for the Panthers anymore? Question.
At this point, it's looking like he might even need to go back to college. I don't know what's going on here. That offense doesn't look good. I saw there was some clip of Adam Thielen like having like a hissy fit as he's running a deep slant. It's towards the end of the game, and Bryce just moves to that awkward kind of position of trying to be able to make a throw and just gets tackled from behind. And we just haven't seen the pocket presence. Like there's other younger quarterbacks that, when DNs are collapsing the pocket and they're coming around you, they can sense to move up in the pocket and move up towards the line of scrimmage versus moving back. And I feel like Bryce Young in, the season that we saw last year and then the couple of weeks that we've seen so far is just consistently getting sacked from behind. And again, the offensive line is not helping him by any means, but he just doesn't seem like he has the presence. It's just poor, man.
This might be our generation's David Carr with the Houston Texans. We're seeing a very good college quarterback just get absolutely shellacked, confidence destroyed, just because he's on probably the worst franchise in the whole National Football League.
Yeah, I would say that we can at least give a little bit of credit to Bryce Young because he continued to play. I think the biggest one that you and I have seen and that we'll both remember the name on is Josh Rosen. That when it comes to top college quarterback, oh, this is gonna be the guy. We're gonna see him for years to come, and just yeah, no. Bryce Young is giving me just a smidge better than Josh Rosen vibes right now.
Yeah, Chosen Rosen. Yeah, Bryce Young, 18 for 26, 84 passing yards, one interception. I feel so bad for Panthers fans right now.
I saw that tickets were going for like literally $1, and it's just that's
Oh, you know that makes some NFL owners furious at David Tepper for doing
pissed,
that.
pissed because it
Because
just
you see, sorry,
it
go ahead.
drops no, it drops everything down. I mean, it
And
ruins like the
good.
NFL product. Like, I mean, dude, definitely don't get me wrong, the prices could definitely drop a little bit and like help a brother out, but like at the same time, for an NFL level product, there are minor league teams that you can't even get in for that. You know what I mean? It's nuts.
Yeah, $100 for nosebleeds and upon ticket fees and processing fees and all that. That's a different discussion for a different day, which we can very elaborate thoroughly on. But we're going to go on into Washington, D.C. The Commanders win 21-18 against the New York Giants. That was probably the worst win I've ever seen, if that's such a thing.
That was bad. And I will tell you, prior to the game, I know that we were texting and we were saying that it was going to be a kickers game. And it's because I feel like all of these NFC East games, especially when it's an interdivision stuff, there's a lot of kicking, there's a lot of unders, there's a lot of gross football. And it just, that was a game that, I had on red zone in the bottom corner and I was just praying it didn't take up the full screen at some point.
Well, Graham Gano did the kickoff and got hurt immediately. So the Giants had no kicker. So they're going for 2-point attempts. And the Giants probably would have won this game if they had a kicker to kick extra points.
Probably.
But that didn't happen. We got the win on, oh, you might be asking yourself, 21-18. Oh, they must have got like 7 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns, right? Now 7 field goals. 7 field
I
goals.
saw during the broadcast too that as much as it seems like that's the most in NFL history, it is not. It is Baronis, who has the top amount when he was a Tennessee Titan in the 2000s, or I want to
Oh
say it was the
yeah, Rob
2000.
Baronis, RIP, RIP.
Yep, I know. Well, yeah, but eight field goals in that performance. I'm not sure exactly when that was, but again, unreal showing today from Washington and being able to kick the ball that often.
But I just want to throw some few stats because it's my favorite team.
Go for it.
Uh, the first initial drive they had was 9 minutes and 36 seconds. That was the longest drive since week 17 of 2022. The next stat I had was the Giants scored a touchdown on their first drive that snapped a 27 game streak.
That's gross. That is so gross. That's almost 2 seasons of not being able to score a touchdown on your first possession. God,
Yeah.
that's a sorry franchise. Oh my Lord.
And then the next stat of another long droughtless game, Brian Robinson Jr. He had over 100 rushing yards, and that was the first time Washington rusher had over 100 yards in 24 games. And
Amazing.
if I had to guess, that would be Antonio Gibson's rookie year.
Yep. And Antonio Gibson had a big day today with the Patriots, at least fantasy wise.
Yeah, we can mosey on over to New England and Seattle. What a game.
Yeah, I know, right? What a game. It was one of those games where again, you're not expecting too much, I think, from this Patriots team. I think that their defense, I think people know that it's a little bit more sound. Ramondre had one really cool possession where it was towards the goal line late in the game. He had a wildcat formation. I think that they're trying some crazy stuff, but I nothing that really kind of shocked me from the day. I mean, the DK 50 something yard touchdown was definitely cool to see. But again, one of those games that you can kind of just happy that we had it, happy that it was in the 10 o'clock slot, but there were other games that had my attention.
I will give props to the Patriots with what they're doing. They're going to their strengths. They're running smash mouth football at its purest form. They had 185 yards on the ground. Jacoby Brissett had 55% completion rating. I thought it was great. And the Seahawks, DK Metcalf and Jackson Smith, Nick Jigba, had over 100 yards passing. And I think of Master Splinter going from young to old with the Ninja Turtles and DK and Jackson walking with him.
There you go.
I think
I
that's what's
like it.
happening with Tyler Lockett because he had 2
Oh, right.
targets and 2 receptions. So, yeah, Tyler Lockett as Master Splinter.
Hey, I will tell you, at least from a Jackson Smith and Jigna standpoint, it was one of those games where I want to say that he was just being used early and often, and that was one of the things that kind of kept his momentum going. And I feel like we see that with a lot of these young receivers. I'm going to avoid talking about the Cowboys as much as I can, but in that Saints game, like we saw with Olave, like him being able to, just jolt and be involved in way too many possessions is what it seems like. And I feel like that's the same thing I saw from Jackson Smith-Jigma. And I'm not going to also lack the point that they're both from Ohio State at the same point. So I don't know if it's a point of, that sort of a relative comparison of receiver, the what they're being taught, but damn, they're just open early and often.
And that moves us to our next game, the land of Jerry World. Saints win 44-19 against the Cowboys. And Jake, is this the Cowboys' year still?
You're a dick. But uh so yeah, no, I think that listen, here's what it comes down to. As a Cowboys fan, I am definitely okay with saying that that was arguably one of the worst games I've seen us play in the last 5 years. Like, I think that when you look back at the Packers postseason loss, obviously that's probably the top one that's at my list right now. But this one hurt, man. I think that at the end of the day, you see a lot of flags in the first quarter that weren't called in the favor of Dallas. And yeah, I sound like a homer right now, but I watched the game and I know football. So screw off. But anyways, I think that Alvin Kamara, you could have. I knew the scouting report going into the game, and it was feed Alvin Kamara. And I think the biggest thing that surprised me out of this game was how just absolutely elite the Saints receivers looked. I don't think that it was the Dallas secondary even looking bad. Like that, we had guys that were on him. There were a couple of obviously blown coverages. You can tell that they're missing Deron Bland right now. But at the same time, that was an inexcusable game. Dak threw at least one pick that was his fault. The other one was completely on the wide receiver's fault for falling down. And again, anybody that's coming at the Dak slander, come at me first. But biggest thing is I think that at that point for the for that game, that was the team losing it for themselves and the receivers just really being open on the Saints side.
Yeah, last week in Cleveland, you guys had a very good game. The offense didn't seem like it was clicking. It was doing what it needed to do to win the game. But I feel that the Dallas defense is now I feel like what I might have said earlier is that Dan Quinn leaving and Joe Witt Jr. not being there coaching that Dallas defense might be starting to show its head. The Cowboys defense may not be as legit. That's just
No, you're definitely not wrong, and I think that that's kind of the biggest thing that we see from the Cowboys entire team right now is I feel like from like a leadership perspective, not that at the end of the day, I don't want to blame Dak and being team captain because I really don't think that this stuff falls down on him. Like I think that at the end of the day, he's a great quarterback. I think that there's a lot of teams that wouldn't blink an eye at being able to have Dak and jump into their system. And when it comes down to an offensive standpoint, I think that, for the first three drives that we had today, Zeke barely touched the field. And you've got guys like Rico Dowdle and Deuce Vaughn being able to come in and they're trying to play like a small kind of running back perspective. And that's just not Dallas football. Like that's not the stuff that has really led to our success in the past. It hasn't led to our success over the last couple of years. Seeing those kinds of guys getting injected in the offense didn't make too much sense to me. So it doesn't shock me that, again, from last week's perspective, Dak was a game manager, got landed the plane, everybody's fine, right? This was one of those where we should not have gotten on the plane.
yeah, it's I'm sure they'll figure it out. Maybe I feel like your guys' ceiling is around 8 to 9 wins.
I mean, listen, when it comes to like the projections on the season, I know that Dallas is, somewhere sitting around like that 10.5 or 11.5, just because, again, for the last 3 years, they've been able to put up 12 wins in the regular season each year. But, man, it's been a couple of shaky games to start off. There's going to be some big games that come up too. When you talk about Jake Snyder Sportsdom right now, the Arizona and Dallas fandoms are hurting this weekend for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's enough talking about Dallas
Thank
getting their
you.
teeth kicked in. We're going to move on to the land of Minnesota. Minnesota wins 23-17 against the San Francisco 49ers. And to talk about it today, this week was a trap. Every game was a trap as far as the
Yeah.
betting standpoint. And Brock Purdy can miss the flight for all I care.
I'm not super high on the guy either, man. I think that again, we've seen him be a really good game manager. I think that if anything, he's like a step higher than that. The one thing that I'll point out from the game that I thought was great was the fact that Justin Jefferson had a 97-yard touchdown. That was sick. And again, just doing it in a way where it's not like he was just streaking down the field, but he's like making defenders miss. That was great to see. But man, that game was not super pretty either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I had the San Francisco 49ers and I hated every second of it. Was last week's game a fluke? Who knows against the Jets? Because they looked like they were running the ball the way they wanted to. Brock Purdy was making passes, and this Minnesota team, there's something I Kevin O'Connell, I think that's the head coach
Mhm.
name.
Yeah.
He has his team dialed. I'm impressed with the way the defense played because I was shocked because I thought they were going to not be great.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I thought that San Francisco was just going to walk in and absolutely stomp them. I was really high on a Debo touchdown because I have him in fantasy, but figured it was cash, especially with CMC being out, Jordan Mason coming in, him having a bell cow game week one. Figure that he might be kind of the decoy going into week two. And I feel like they just decoyed themselves, man. It's crazy. Like it was one of those things where I feel like we were not watching the same team week over week. And sure, you're missing Christian McCaffrey. We know that best player in the NFL, arguably best kind of player to inject into an offense. But yeah, Brock Purdy at your helm. I don't know if that's super fun for any team. Just gonna go out
You
there and say it. Just
You know,
gonna
I
go out
just
there.
realized, you know, I just realized
Hmm.
Stephon Gilmore's on the Minnesota Vikings, and everywhere he goes, defenses do great. And he's no, I could Stephon Gilmore could be 45, and he could still be an elite defensive back.
Hey, I like it. And listen, the guy that's been able to show it on a bunch of different teams, and the guy that's walking into Minnesota, and clearly that defense showed up. I think Purdy threw at least one, if not two picks. So, there were a couple of bad decision making plays by him, but man, Minnesota just walked in and shoved it.
Yeah, and we're gonna go ahead and go to the land of the Music City. The New York Football Jets beat the Tennessee Titans 24-17, and you might hear the score. And this game was a lot grosser to watch than on paper.
Oh yeah. I think that probably my highlight of the game by far was the Brees Hall kind of fading the wheel
Oh,
route kind of fading down into the end zone. That was just unreal. But
yeah.
frankly, that was a gross game. Will Levis again is just proving himself as being the worst of that class, and I don't know how he's going to end up being the worst of that class because there's some bad ones. But damn, it's just one of those situations where like the Jets look really good and like they don't even look like really good. They just look like kind of good. Um, but Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. Brees Hall is able to come in and be an athlete. The Jets defense came in and shut him down a little bit. Tennessee's in for some trouble this year, I think.
If Tennessee could play the way they did the first quarter every quarter, they would be a great football team. But that has not been the sense. And Brees, the Jets looked terrible to start off that first half.
Right.
Brees Hall was not able to get any rushing yards. And then second half time, Braylon Allen got a touchdown. Brees Hall, at his size, that just his athleticism to catch that pass looked insane. Maybe put him in a tight end. Who knows? But yeah, the Jets beat a game, won a game they really needed to win.
Definitely needed that. Kind of needed a momentum win. I think that again for their next game or a day at home, Drew. I don't have their schedule pulled up.
Oh, the Jets. They should
Mhm.
have a home game, and it will be against New England.
Yeah, so it's a big interdivision kind of matchup for them. Obviously, Patriots have had a little bit of juice. They had the big Cincinnati win in week one. They had a kind of tough game this week. We'll see. That should be a fun matchup to watch for, honestly.
That honestly might be an interesting matchup to watch. No joke.
I know. I'm not even joking. It's not going to be. Well, at least what I'm hoping for is it's not like what we've seen in the past, where it's like literally like a 3-6 game or like a 6-9 game, like something just absolute dog water. I'm hoping that we at least see. Let Hey, how many offensive touchdowns do you think happen in that game? Just blind reaction right now from Jets Patriots next week.
I think the Jets put up 3, the Patriots put up 2.
Okay, so you're going 5 offensive touchdowns. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go because again, I want to say in years like in the last couple of matchups between those teams, I want to say that there was maybe like two all of last season. I'm gonna go ahead and say that there are 3 total in the game.
Wasn't that line for that game like 32 or something?
One of the
It was
lowest that we've ever
disgusting.
seen.
And
Yep.
it hit and it under hit.
hmm
Yeah,
Two
that
gross teams, but interdivisional matchups, especially once you get through week 1 and whatnot, they got a little bit more meaning to them. They're a little bit more fun. So, for as much as I can't say last year I would have actually been watching the Jets and Patriots game, I will be watching that next week for sure.
and to get the last gross game, and then I'll leave a fun one for the next 1 p.m. slot. Packers, Colts. Packers win 16-10 in the frozen tundra. Anthony Richardson looked like he doesn't know how to play football.
Yeah, he was a shell of what we've seen in some weeks, and that offense just could not come together. Jonathan Taylor broke out for some big plays like he typically does. I want to say that he had at least like 2 or 3 plays of over 30 yards, but just didn't break into the end zone, wasn't able to get a ton of points on the board. Game was pretty disappointing from a Colts standpoint. I think if you're someone that's big on Anthony Richardson, you got to take a look at yourself in the mirror and really remember as to why you're liking this guy, because there were some questionable decisions. There were some really bad picks. And again, I think that the athletic ability is there. And I think that, when you're at home and you're in your environment, that's a very different game plan than going into Lambeau and now having to go and show up.
This was another game that was smash mouth football. Smash mouth football may be ugly, but just the quarterback play really hinders that. That's why it was disgusting. I like running the football. Josh Jacobs had 32 carries for 151 yards, and Malik Willis looked serviceable. He had little over 100 yards passing, but it was serviceable. And I felt like the Colts defense could have done a way better job, but I got to give it up to Matt LaFleur for winning that game.
Yeah, that's an out coaching moment right there. You know what I mean? Like you had a guy at less of a caliber that was able to kind of outperform for what he is, right? I think that when you take a guy like Malik Willis and you put him on the road and you're now, probably having to wait a couple weeks on Jordan Love and at least getting him back into the fold of everything, it's going to be a very different test. But to your point, showing up at home, showing up against a Colts team that did not show up, I think that they deserve their post game orange slices for sure.
Jake, guess who they play next week?
Who do they play?
The Titans.
Oh my God, that is going to be an absolute shit matchup again.
That's gonna be pure vomit. I'm
Okay, so
sorry.
early reaction on Tennessee Packers. We don't know who we've got line wise or anything. What are you feeling?
I think Tennessee. No, I don't do this. Is
Both of those teams suck.
it's oh my god, I don't know
Give
what
me
you
the
would.
Packers. I want the Packers, and again, I don't know any lines, anything like that. I'm gonna say Vegas has got to have the line at over 2.5
I was
Packers.
gonna guess two. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna say, at least in my mind, there's no way that they don't walk out of there with winning by 6.
yeah. If the Titans don't win this game, just put a fork in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, blow up the team because I thought they were going to be a really good team. I like Will Levis. I want him to do well, but it's just not at the math is not mathing.
The math is not mathing, my friend.
But we're gonna finally get onto our last 1 p.m. slate game with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beating the Detroit Lions at Ford Field 20-16. This was a pretty interesting game.
Oh yeah. I will tell you, I was not expecting this going into it. I mean, obviously the Lions were like a big money line favorite. The spread was definitely in their favor. At the end of the day, I think that the biggest thing that we're learning about this Lions team is that they need to be able to convert on the easy downs. You know what I mean? You cannot walk away with some of these possessions and only get 3 points. Or again, in Dan Campbell's system, because they go for it on fourth down, you need to have an offense that can convert on 3 yards and less every single time. And if you're going to go for it on 4 or more yards, again, you got to have those plays in the playbook for it. They keep doing a lot of dump downs to Gibbs is kind of seeming like Goff's number one receiver at this point, which as a fantasy owner of his, I love. But at the same time, it's not something that, as a Lions fan, you're probably punching sand this week.
So tail back on your fourth down conversions, to point the roll back to Dan Campbell. That man is a wheeling dealing son of a bitch. He went for it. He did a big punt pass on his own like 10-yard line.
He's a
It was
demon.
insane.
And listen, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I think that the best part about this Lions team is that they know that they have the playmakers to be able to make it on both sides of the ball. Let's give our roses for a half a second for Aiden Hutchinson. Holy
Oh my
crap.
God. 3 sacks in the first quarter and 5 to cap it off.
Yeah, dude. Was it five? Was that the final total? That's
Yeah.
the second best performance in their team history then for sacks in a game because 5.5 was the top line.
Four
So
4.5 sacks, excuse me. It should be 5, but
4.5, whatever. Anyways, but my point being is that again, for both sides of the ball, like Lions showed up, and I think that what we really saw at the end of the day was there were a lot of risky calls that didn't necessarily go the Lions' way. There were a couple of bigger pieces that we saw from Jared Goff, where again, a couple of lazy throws that turned into picks, a couple of routes that, again, in my opinion, not as the armchair quarterback that I am, those are passes that again, if you're going to throw it to somebody, you need 7 yards to gain, and you're throwing to somebody at 3 yards down, and there's five guys around him. That's just not the smart route. You know what I mean? Like check down, get your yards, but it just didn't seem like a great performance from Goff, and that offense didn't seem to run super efficiently, in my opinion.
yeah, he was just 55 attempts passing, and Amon-Ra got fed, but it just wasn't enough to pull out the win. And Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers really, really laid it down.
Yeah, and I mean Baker, not I wasn't ever on the Baker hate train, I will tell you, but I don't think I
Me
was ever
either.
on the Baker hype train. Like in saying that I think that he's going to be great. But I will tell you, I mean, he's looking like a guy that can play with some presence. He moves up in the pocket really well, I think. Again, he's able to get these random like bursts of yardage. Like for a guy that, I wouldn't say is the most athletic, he's not even a top 12 athletic quarterback, I'd say, in the league personally.
No, his movement in the pockets really. He did get sacked 5 times, but that's Aiden Hutchinson.
Right.
But his outside of that, his pocket mobility, he's just like, oh my God, this guy can't get down. He reminds me, this I might get shit on for this. I don't care, but he reminds me of Drew Brees sometimes, just never giving up on a play.
Mm-hmm. I get
Um,
that.
Now he didn't have the craziest stat line this game, but I think the Buccaneers are gonna win. Obviously, win the NFC South. Actually, that's not true. The Saints, but
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to say the least.
Yeah, to your point on the Saints real quick. Again, not that I feel like I need to show any love to to Nola right now because they absolutely mollywop my team. But I did see that this is the second best performance in team history of points scored through 2 games. And the last time that they scored more than this, which was 98 points in the 2009 season, that would be the year that they won the Super Bowl. They've scored 91 points through 2 games this year. So again, the early people, they may or may not be they may or not be ready for a Super Bowl trip to NOLA to watch the Super Bowl in NOLA with NOLA in it. But the real question is, will Lil Wayne be there? Because he's not performing the halftime show, and that's a shame.
Yeah, Jay-Z, Mr. Illuminati Puppet Master had to have who's performing? Kendrick?
Kendrick.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I
I don't
love
know. You like
Kendrick.
Kendrick though.
Yeah, I love Kendrick, but this is in New Orleans. Like Lil Wayne is from like Louisiana. Like this all needed to come together. And it sounds like it was a who dat who missed that call. That's what I want to know.
Right. But then that'll wrap up the 1 game slate, and we're gonna briefly go over the 4 o'clock game slate because we had to record during it. Let's just get this one out of the way. Steelers versus Broncos. Got anything?
Not really. I will tell you, I'm big on their running core. I want to see how they continue to grow and develop. I think that Najee really should be able to get fed this game. I haven't really been able to look at the lines or anything. It looks like 13-3 is the current score right now. Other than that, I got nothing, Drew. What
There's
about
a
you?
lot of there's a lot of nasty football being played, and can't say I enjoy it, but it's kind of football at its purest form in a way.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it looks like we've got a little bit of a barn burner right now with Cincinnati and Kansas City. That's a 1 point game, kind of deeper into the fourth quarter. So we should see how that one folds out.
I don't get it. I don't get how the Bengals are able to keep it. The, yeah, I bet the Chiefs. Yeah, shocker. Whoa, Drew's angry at the Bengals. Dude, Patrick Mahomes, dude, 15 for 20, 2 picks in the game. Ugh.
It's
Oh,
one of those things where I think Cincinnati knows when to show up, and obviously there's been a lot of media on this game this week just because of how much like crap that Cincinnati's been talking. So it doesn't shock me
well,
that it's this close of a game, but at the same time, I don't have either of the teams spread right now, so
I'm gonna
I'm
rip
just
it
here for football,
off.
man.
I'm gonna rip it off. So they mentioned something about Joe Burrow hearing I guess Patrick Mahomes was on the Greenlight podcast with Travis Kelce and Jason, whatever. And then I guess Joe Burrow said the Bengals team's made to beat the Chiefs team scheme wise. I don't know. I don't. I'm not that smart about football. I never played, but
Hey, we'll
um.
see.
And then the Rams got their lunch handed to them 41-10 by the Arizona Cardinals. And Cardinals look legit. This offense compared to last year, my goodness.
Yeah, night and day. And I mean, listen, we'll kind of throw it a little bit back in the day when we were talking on one of the first episodes that I was on with Kyler being, top level. I mean, listen, man, I'm not going to say that he has like the best talents in the league right now, but with that kind of an offense, they're going to drive up point totals and whether their defense can stop them or not. This Rams game was surprising, in my opinion. I think that Vegas knew what was up from the jump because the Rams were underdogs, and I think the public was fading towards them, and something just didn't feel right in all of that. And maybe it was the fact that just Marvin Harrison did not get used week one and just got absolutely thrown into the fire week two and just came out like a phoenix, man. I mean, what was the final stats, Drew? Do you have it pulled up?
Yeah, he had 130 yards receiving, 4 receptions, and 2 touchdowns.
Right. And I mean, there were times where he was just wide open. There were times where he was making elite sideline level catches. Like that is why you drafted him so high. That is why everybody was freaking out week one as to why the hell did you not use this guy? And I think now the NFL is, well, what the hell do we do to defend this guy? Is now what every NFL team is now saying?
Yeah, no, and James Conner laid down the wood, getting 122 yards on the ground and a touchdown. And I'm pretty happy for him. I think he's a funny guy. I watched not once again to mention so many others YouTube channel, but Kyler Murray's YouTube channel. They had a video recording of them in LA at UCLA, and they were all hanging out. And James Conner seems like a fun dude to hang out with. So I'm happy to see that he's getting some good stats and on a winning team.
And that'll be a fun division to watch, man. I mean, obviously, like Seahawks were playing earlier today, the Rams taking a big loss against a team like the Cardinals, where I don't think a lot of people saw that coming in their early season predictions. The NFC West is going to be a fun division to watch.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And so far, the Cardinals have the stranglehold and the reins on that division. And we're gonna go and move on to the Sunday night game: Bears versus Texans in Houston. Any predictions?
Man, I feel like because it's in Houston, I'm just blindly riding with Houston. I think that at the end of the day, the one thing that I'm probably the most confident in is a Joe Mixon just gong show again. I think that the Bears defense looked really good last week, but I think that from a Mixon standpoint, he's going to be the guy that gets 30 carries a game and kind of takes some of the pressure off of CJ Stroud because I think that we've seen that before where rookie year quarterback, they do amazing. And then they come into their second year and they get relied on a little bit too much. They try to make too many big plays. And then, the worst things happen. Right. So I think that being able to have a guy like Joe Mixon that comes in, he's able to take a ton of pressure off of you and off of your receivers. And now you've just got an onslaught of guys like Diggs, Collins, and
Tank
Tank Dell to
Dell.
just be able to feast. You know what I mean?
I agree with that sentiment. I think they should feed Joe Mixon the ball to have any just to take any chance of Caleb Williams getting comfortable and in rhythm. I feel that the Texans should try to get as much time of possession and try to not let that Bears offense or Caleb Williams get any confidence, and really just crush that Bears defense confidence as much as you can. I think that'll be the keys to winning the game.
Drew, I'm looking at lines right now.
Roma
Again,
Dunze is active.
Roma Dunze is active. Okay, so that's big to know. So we're about an hour or so from kickoff right now. Lines are at -6 Houston, +6 Bears. It's on the road in Houston. The over is at 40, or I'm sorry, the line is set at 45. Do you like the spread or the over? Anything that you're feeling for tonight?
Uh, I might as well just bet the opposite. I like Houston and I like the over, so take the Bears and the under.
That's the spirit. That's what I love to see. Well, what I will be taking just to give out my little tip, and again, this will be released after. So to find those premium tips, you'll have to find us on TikTok. But our anytime play for Joe Mixon is minus 135. Give that, book it. That'll be the play.
I feel like these anytime touchdown scores on the books now are just so not as good as they used to be.
Oh, for sure. But it's because they've caught on. I mean, they know that guys like you and I are sitting here and looking at the stats for the last 3 years on what's the averages over weeks and whatnot. And again, for a defense like the Bears, that I think has probably some juice behind it in some ways, you know what I mean? I don't think that the two touchdowns showing from them last week, especially on the defensive side, is something that I'm really going to like praise them about. I think that that was something that just was a. I'm not going to call it a fluke because every every play takes talent and effort and all these kinds of things. But I want to see them do it on a big stage tonight at Energy Stadium in Houston. I want to see that.
Absolutely. And we're gonna go to the final Monday Night Football game. Atlanta rolls into Philadelphia. AJ Brown's out of the game with the hamstring.
Big news.
Does Kirk Cousins figure it out?
I don't know, man. I think that with the Eagles, they should be able to just really grasp the reins from the start and just be able to run. I think you should expect another big game from Saquon. It really shouldn't be too much of a gong show, in my opinion. I think the Falcons just really don't have a lot of juice. The offense looks like it could have some fun at some point, but when you're walking into Philly, that's going to be a tough day.
Yeah, I feel like that those fans are just going to be berating him and not the Philly defensive backs aren't anything to really be afraid of. That's just the honest truth. So maybe Kirk Cousins figures it out, but can't say I see it happening.
Yeah, I don't have too much stock in this Falcons offense. I will tell you that as a Cowboys fan, it would be awesome to see them lose to an NFC South team. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be okay if the Eagles end up winning this game. They should win the game. I see the lines right now minus 5.5 at home. A little bit of a scary line, but I think that if you're taking the Texans and you have that same exact theory tonight of, again, you've got a team that's better on both sides of the ball playing against a team that's got maybe a defense or an offense that's kind of a little bit more of a higher than a lower on their side. I'm taking both of the teams at home. Give me Texans, give me Eagles.
And that'll wrap up the NFL. We're gonna now finally move on to our current events, what we saw through the week. Stuff I saw. There's a baseball player, I think he's for the Pirates, named Allen Iverson, and he is exactly the same height, same weight, and has the same number as the basketball player Allen Iverson.
We're living in a simulation. That's like that's insane.
Now, will this kid have the same kind of swag as AI on the baseball field, on the baseball diamond, as AI did on the court? Who knows? We'll see.
It'll be very interesting to see if he can incorporate a crossover, especially while he's playing.
Exactly. Ohio State's Jeremiah Smith is related to Geno Smith, who
I did
plays
not
for.
know that.
Neither did I until that post. Did you watch the UFC at all?
I did, and I won and lost
Insane.
some money, but it was definitely very, very fun.
The main, I think it should have won fight tonight, but the Mexican dude versus the Argentinian dude just absolutely socking each other in the face.
Yeah, dude, I was watching that, and I feel like it was something that I was mentioning to my roommate as we were watching it. I feel like it, and again, maybe it's just my lack of knowledge on not watching UFC. So many of the main card fights were going to decision, and maybe that's just like the new thing is that both these fighters are just built to last and just tougher, stronger, however you want to call it. But man, there were a couple of haymakers that came in from the Argentinian dude and had the guy from Mexico just literally backing up, like, oh my God, I can't, whatever. And then somehow just found some sort of momentum while his back was on the fence, laid one more punch, had the guy able to kind of track back a little bit. And then the fight kept going. And then the fact that he ended up losing over the points, I wasn't shocked by.
Yeah.
But like the Argentinian guy, damn, that I think he was at least 2, if not 3 inches fully shorter than him too. So he was fighting up.
And then we had the co-main event with the women's for Valentina Shevchenko or whatever. She pretty much just wrestled her way and defeated Grasso. That was a good fight. And then the main event, Sugar Sean loses his title versus I don't even remember the dude's name, but I took money on that Georgian dude. So many people
There you
might
go.
thought this fight sucked. He just ground and pounded him the whole time. Well, I enjoyed every second of it.
I lost money on O'Malley. It definitely was not super fun. I did win money on Sevchenko.
Yeah.
And again, that was kind of cool where again, being kind of an outside UFC fan, learned that this is like the first women's match that's had three. It's the first trilogy in terms of their series. And Sevchenko, she hadn't been able to kind of get anything onto her side of the kind of scorecard now. And again, her kind of getting that win by decision, I think was a big thing for her. So overall, it's definitely it's an interesting piece that I've been watching a little bit more UFC, but holy shit, let me tell you, watching it from like the Sphere perspective, I wasn't there personally, but just being able to see all the videos and again, just kind of seeing the onpour of media that really comes from an event like that is just nuts, man.
Oh yeah. And then lastly, Dylan Cruz, 2 web gems. I'm gonna put them right here. Boom, boom.
There we
And that is
go.
all I had for my current events.
Well, I love it. Well, way to lead me in on baseball side because that's always what my current event is going to be until it's not baseball season, of course. But I think that one of the biggest things that I wanted to bring to the table is with these current events that we've got going on in baseball. We've got a couple of big historic campaigns that are going on right now. There's going to be three I'm going to touch on. First one is with Shohei. You've heard me talk about him before on the pod. We're trying to go for the 50-50 season specifically. He's played in 145 games so far this year. So we're looking at about 17 games left if he does play all of them. Currently at 47 home runs, 48 stolen bases. Biggest thing to know right now is that this is the highest stolen base total in his career already. And I think that,
Well,
well,
it helps. It helps having the new rules.
helps having the new rules, of course. But I think that this is nearly double what his other career years have been, especially his MVP year in 2021. And again, over the next 17 games, I'm hoping that he can at least get across the mark and he'd be the first person ever to have that 50-50 season. So I think everybody in baseball is really looking for that one. The other one that with Josh not being on the pod, I'll fill in a little bit of love for Cleveland right now. Cleveland, this is for you because Jose Ramirez really needs to step up in the next 16 games. He's going for his 40-40 season. And right now he's at 35 home runs and 39 stolen bases. So on Jose's side, he's never cleared 40 in either of those two categories. So stolen bases being at 39, he should probably cover that one. There was a pretty profound stretch throughout the year where Jose was just not hitting for power. He's hitting for average. And I think that we're now at a point where, in these last couple of games, Cleveland has got to step up and really hopefully put put wood on ball and really make it happen. So Jose's 5 home runs back and a stolen base back from his 40-40 season. Last guy I've got on my list, and Matt already mentioned him. And again, with Matt not being here, I'll fill in for him, is Ellie De La Cruz going for the potential 25-70 season.
I'll fill in
Um,
for him later too. Continue.
there we go. Love it. I imagine a Dion segment's coming. But the Ellie De La Cruz 25-70 season, right now he's played 148 games, 24 home runs, and 64 stolen bases. So he's a home run and 6 stolen bases back. There's only been 3 other players in MLB history that have ever done that with Eric Davis, Ricky Henderson, and Ronald Acuna Jr. So with these kind of 3 guys right here, we're really looking at like some top level MLB type talent. Again, 40-40 season we've seen before, but it hasn't happened a ton of times. And I think that for Cleveland specifically, we're really looking at a guy that is going to probably end up being their GOAT. For Cincinnati, if they can get Ellie at a 25-70 season, I'm not going to say is their GOAT. They've got a lot of good players in their history, but at least for now, he's your top talent to watch for sure.
Nobody's gonna like this, but I'm gonna be the boomer right now. These stolen base records and new. I get it. Baseball needs it and needs more excitement to get more fans and engaged and interested in it. But like, come on, like Ricky Henderson, like it's not the same.
Oh, for sure. And I think that that's kind of the biggest thing is that for a guy like Ellie, the fact that he is being compared to a guy like Ricky, because Ricky is the
No,
top. What do you mean?
no, dude, come on. I mean, the pitcher can have what amount one? What do you call it? Throwing to first, pitch offs.
Oh yeah, like pitch out type thing,
Yeah, pitch outs. Yeah,
pick off.
yeah, pickoffs. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. They have like what 3 pickoffs during like an at bat, and then that they could
Sure.
still. what? Like, come on.
Yes, I understood, but I don't think that people aren't beating Ricky's single season record. Like, again, maybe we see that kind of stuff that's happening, but frankly, I think that anybody that's able to mix the power and the speed like Ellie has been able to do, hell yeah, I'm all for that. And I mean, the Jose side, he, I mean, frankly, with all of these guys, you know what I mean? Like, they've all got wheels, like, for as much as they're putting up power numbers too. I'm with it. You know, that might be the first time that we actively disagree on this pod. I'm coming at you, dog. Don't.
I would love to have some screaming clips. But nah, that's just my personal take on it. But
Well, hey, how about this? Out of those three guys that I just listed, if you had to feel a guy that you're most comfortable with getting to his mark, so either Shohei getting to
oh,
50-50,
Tani.
okay, so you feel most confident on Otani, then
Yeah.
so he's your number one. What's your number two and three behind Jose and Ellie?
I think Ellie gets the two spot, and then from what Josh has told me, because I'm beating his butt in fantasy baseball in the playoffs right now,
There you go.
he told me that Jose and the crew are not doing too hot, so I'm gonna put Jose at three currently.
All right. Hey, totally understand. Well, the other piece that I wanted to cover from baseball on a guy that wasn't doing too hot up until a few days ago is Aaron Judge. Please, on everything, tell me that you've seen Aaron Judge in Paw Patrol.
I mean, I saw like the commercial preview for it, but I didn't watch the episode.
Do yourself a favor, like don't watch the full episode. You don't need to go through that, but just go on YouTube and like just watch a clip or two and just see what happens of it, because it's just one of those things where you love seeing the athletes like getting involved, and they're like, "Oh, it's growing the game, it's growing your brand, all this kind of stuff." Well, in 16 games after Paw Patrol Aaron Judge episode was released, my man's was just not hitting well, and it was one of those like Madden cover stories where like your stats are dropping. In 16 games between Paw Patrol releasing and his next home run, which is a few days ago against against the Red Sox, that was a grand slam. So again, he's back. But we're talking about the in between. 16 games where he hit 207 compared to hitting 333 on the year. He was slugging 352 during those 16 games versus 465 for the rest of the year. And his extra base hitting percentage in those 16 games was 25% versus throughout the entire year. He was hitting at 53% of every hit that he has as an extra base hit. So it was just going to show that I don't know if Paw Patrol ruined his power. I don't know if people were getting to him on social media, but
It's all the fame
uh,
that's getting to him.
it might be. It might be. Listen, man, Paw Patrol's a big deal.
All the kiddos are messing with the psyche.
Oh, yeah.
Did you have one more thing you want to talk about?
Let's see. Let's see what I got in my notes. Anything that I
See.
can pull out right now? Oh, I did. I wanted to talk about Arch Manning. And I think that again, we're seeing something with this whole Quinn Ewers thing. I don't want to talk about it too much because I haven't cited all my sources yet, but I've been reading some stuff on Twitter where they're saying that the Manning family might have paid Ewers to take a bad injury, take a fake injury because the
That's
injury doesn't.
insane.
And listen, I'm not putting all this fake news in the world. I still everybody do their own research. I got to read it, but again, tinfoil hat theory is if you look at the injury that Ewers went down with, it's not it. I don't know medical theory, but it doesn't look that bad. And then he came out in sweatpants, and then Arch Manning was able to come out and put up nine of 12, 223 yards, four touchdowns in the air to then run for 353 and another touchdown. Basically got the entire three quarters of the game to himself. Tinfoil hat is not on yet, but it's something that's off to the side, and I'm looking at.
Yeah, it helps that his dad was a wide receiver and not a quarterback like Peyton and Eli. And
Right.
then to touch back on another thing, Archie Manning, Archman, or no, Archie Manning, the dad, like who played for the Saints, he's spooky. I'm gonna say it. He spooks me out sometimes with all this like power
Really?
and manipulation they have. I mean,
Oh yeah.
the Manning family like power and like their blueprint on their fingerprint on the NFL. I don't know. It kind of freaks me out.
No, they're the dynasty family right now. It's definitely a little bit eerie seeing them kind of everywhere and on every on
Are
everything.
are they football Illuminati?
I don't know. I mean, hey, listen, if the
So
whole
stupid.
if the rumors are true on this Ewers thing, I mean, that'll that'll be telling. But I mean, Ewers, I'll point out, did not play bad by any means. Obviously, went 14-16. 185 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think that this Texas team, we're going to continue to just see them do their thing. And again, it'll be interesting to see as to whether Arch gets next. It looks like, at least from initial reports, is that he's probably getting next week, at least full game to himself. And it's pretty much going to be a cupcake watch. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm very interested to hear about more of this drama and maybe put on a tinfoil hat at some point. We'll get a little crazy in the theories.
We shall see, and that'll wrap up our current events. We're gonna move on to our bench or play. I'm gonna get into it as I got into it earlier. I'm benching Mike McDaniels, that pencil nose, eyeglass, 4 eyes wearing dork. Yeah, it's just oh my god. You think you after Tua got concussed for the 4th time, you think they watched MacGruber like they did on the plane? You think, hey Tua, we're want to watch MacGruber like the last time you got your lights absolutely knocked out at home? Oh, you want to
Not
go
it.
watch a movie? Yeah, after him changing his image with those stupid gold frame glasses, what a loser! Get this guy out of Miami. This guy sucks. Guy's too much of a player's coach. Too hey buddy. What a loser! This guy stinks. He's not a football coach. Get him out of the league.
Hey, leading off hot. Look at you. I will tell you, as someone who I don't think that from a Cowboys perspective, I can really say there's been a player's coach there all that often. It's definitely cool to see it from afar, but having it on your team and kind of seeing the impacts that it makes across the league, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, he's this the Dolphins team's way too soft. They're like every time they get in the playoffs, they can't win the division. They can't win a playoff game on the road. They suck. I'm sorry. Blow the team up. Get a new quarterback. Save that kid's mental health in the future for Tua. Yeah, just blow it up. That's all I had.
All right. Well, on my side, this bench is not going to come super shockingly. I'm benching all of this hype that's going to happen on the Saints. Like it is coming, and it's coming in
You're so
waves. And it's,
salty. You're
dude,
so
not only am I
salty.
salty, but this is coming in waves. And I'm not going to be the only person that's like, oh, like the Saints aren't legit. And again, they put up some amazing numbers, but I'm benching the hell out of the Saints. I don't think that they're winning their division. I think that at the end of the day, it is the Buccaneers' division to lose. And I think that the Saints, Derek Carr looks like an elite level quarterback right now. And that's a problem for the Saints because that never means that he's going to look like that coming week 16, 17, and 18 when they actually matter. So I am benching the hell out of the Saints. They're not winning their division. Their offense will regress heavily.
I can't say I disagree. Derek Carr is going to Derek Carr at some point, and it's going to
He's
be
going. There's nothing that this guy does besides stat pad and win terrible games. That's all he does. And I think that when it comes down to him having to play real opponents, and again, I'm really taking a dig at myself right now and what Dallas just did this week. But when he plays like some badasses that they're going to have to play throughout the year, I'm very curious to see how they have to do.
mind you, their head coach Dennis Allen is the most mediocre coach. I don't know how this guy still has a job. He should have been fired like 2 years ago. It's like I mentioned last week, it's fool's gold. It's all shiny and glittery right now, and then you're gonna be like, well, we have nothing. Because
Exactly. I'm benching the shit out of it because I just don't think that at the end of the day, if this continues to go the way it does, Drew, and we see another, let's call it 2, 3 weeks of this offense being just a rocket ship,
eat
right?
your words.
I know, right? I'll eat my words. But if we do, then all they're going to be saying is, oh, the Super Bowl's in New Orleans. It's going to be New Orleans. We're going to start hearing about the logo of the Super Bowl color and how it's yellow and how that means that the Saints are like, I don't want to hear any of that shit. The team is bad. There's things that from the,
Yeah.
hey, hey,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah,
hey,
because this is the
hey,
Cowboys year.
damn right.
This
Damn
our
right.
year.
No,
Shut
but
up. Get
listen,
out of here.
no. We are benching the Saints. We are benching them to win the NFC South, and we are playing the Buccaneers to win the NFC South.
Okay.
Book it.
Well,
Book it.
we hit the over on how many times you said Cowboys today. We're gonna go
The under on amount of times that I've cried, though, so that's good.
uh, we're gonna go and move on to worst bets tweet. I'll lead us off. Travis Hunter saying he'll pay
dinner for his O line. What a freaking jerk off after you threw under the bus playing video games on live stream and a handful of times, and you and your butt buddy quarterback Shedeur Sanders. Get out of here. What a loot, what a dork.
Not it. And it's
No,
one of those things where they're trying to be cool. They're trying to say, "Oh, let me take care of you," and yeah,
no,
it's
it's
not
all
it.
for show. He don't really mean that. He won't be buddies with any of them when he's in the NFL. He'll forget about them in a heartbeat.
Hmm.
Um, and then next is this Twitter account, My Mixtape, saying 69-year-old Raiders owner Mark Davis said his 26-year-old girlfriend didn't know he was a billionaire. She was just attracted to his beautiful smile.
And his haircut.
And then the tweet got fact checked saying this girl has been seen with Mark Davis in his suite at Raiders game, but has never been in a relationship with him. Claims that she was Mark's pregnant girlfriend were debunked, and she is in a relationship with Joey Gallo. Um, what a loser! Who wants to be in a relationship with Joey Gallo? You had Mark Davis at your palm of your fingertips.
Yeah,
You could have had your shot. Well, come on.
that's the idea of dating for money or dating for looks right there. And that I don't know where you go.
You're dating a guy who's batting under the Mendoza line. What a loser!
Bad. Or a guy that's got a bowl cut. So you're not really
That's hot.
upgrading in either way.
She doesn't have good taste in men at all. Mark Davis.
It's so funny.
Wait. Sorry.
Oh, that's so good.
That's all I had.
All right, well, I'm gonna put this down as the best tweet that I saw, but it was one of the worst beats of the week. And it was a TikTok from ESPN Bet. So I'll just paint the picture for you. So Eastern Illinois is at home. They're up by 14. They're playing against Indiana State. Towards the end of the game, it starts getting to become a couple of possessions that are going Indiana State's way. And the best part about this, and Drew, I'm gonna send you the screenshot of what it is. But last play of the game, and I should preface that Eastern Illinois is favored in this game by -8.5. So they're up by 14, right? 57 seconds left on the clock. Indiana State quarterback hikes it, rolls out to his left, and one of the defensive ends is like grabbing to try to tackle him and grabs him by the pants, but rips his pants down to where his bare ass is showing. So as the quarterback is running, he has to take one arm, lift up his pants, the other one to throw, ends up converting the pass for a touchdown. Eastern Illinois now loses their backdoor cover because Indiana State had what I am calling the bare ass touchdown. And it is phenomenal.
I'm surprised you just wouldn't let it all hang out and just throw the touchdown.
Listen, talk about a guy being a competitor, but talk about him being a gentleman. Like, guy had his ass out in the middle of a football game, down by 2 touchdowns. He says, "No, my mom is watching this," and then still threw a touchdown. You know what I mean? So that was my best tweet of the weekend, but probably the worst backdoor cover I saw for sure.
That should be on like not worst top 10 plays for ESPN, but like also best at the same
Right?
time.
Best worst moments.
For like 21 weeks, it should be. They still do that, but back in the day, that was the best.
Oh, that was the best.
But good find, Jake. And that'll end worst or best tweet. We're gonna get on to our top 5, our bleacher rankings, top 5 active NFL coaches that you would like to be coached by.
Let's go.
So we'll go tit for tat. I'll start off with my number 5. Give me Jim Harbaugh. Now I have him at number 5 because the guy loves football. He just seems like super positive, but at the same time, he's such a cornball with like his saving. Like, who has it better than us? I don't know. I just find it corny. I think I like him, but at the same time, it's just like I don't know. His sayings and like kind of mantra can get corny, but I like him enough to have him in my top 5.
I like the pick. And it's funny that you picked a Harbaugh as your 5th because I did not take Jim, but I took John. as my
Oh, you dog.
and I think obviously there's the Super Bowl pedigree, but I think that frankly, like a lot of his players are known for really liking the guy. I can't say that I've ever heard too many bad things about him. I think he's my safe pick at 5. I think the other ones, when we start getting towards the top, were some really hard choices, but that's going to be my easy slot for 5.
Okay. I'm gonna go with my number 4. Give me Sean McVay. Just seems like a guy who loves football. He's coach under the John Gruden tree as well as the Mike Shanahan tree. I like both those coaches, and that's why I like Sean McVay. Just seems like a cool dude that likes his players. Seems tough, very smart football coach. Schemes up really good stuff for his offense, despite him getting shellacked. But that's not to a fault of his own, with nobody to throw the ball to. Give me Sean McVay at 4.
All right, you may or may not see him on my list at some point. I don't want to give too much away, but for number 4, I'm going Andy Reid. Again, Super Bowl pedigree. Let's leave the whole Chiefs thing alone, right? Like I think that walking into a team like that, obviously, who wouldn't want to be in an organization that's kind of shown that much championship prowess? But I think for a guy like him, again, a lot of players are known for liking him. Cheeseburger Andy is definitely going to be celebrating one of those kind of personal reward moments too. And frankly, I'd like to see an NFL practice that has more cheeseburgers at it. So put me at Andy Reid for 4.
Absolutely. I like that pick. Number 3, give me D'Amico Ryans, a new age NFL coach, former player, probably gets it, defensive minded, probably really tough coach, but somebody you would really want to play for. Just seems like an overall nice guy, genuine person. I liked him as an NFL player when he played for the Texans, so give me him at number 3.
And there we go. I figured at one point we were going to overlap at some point, and that is the overlap. I also have D'Amico at
Nice.
3. From him being at Bama, him being a defensive rookie of the year, I think the culture that they're putting together in Texas or in Houston, I should say, is definitely something that's pretty cool to watch. And frankly, I love it whenever some of these like former defensive players become coaches because then they're so fired up on the sidelines. And again, any coach that has to have like one of those wranglers that has to grab them by like the belt, those
Yeah,
you may see a few more of those coming through. But have me down at D'Amico for 3.
absolutely. Now I'm gonna go with my number 2. Give me Andy Reid. Uh, I love Andy Reid. Guy is an offensive guru genius. And as you've heard many of his players, he's a player coach, lets them be himself. He lets Travis Kelsey act the way he does. So why not be coached by him? And just be looking into the future too, just like having a nice big cheeseburger or steak with your head coach just seems something pretty chill. So give me Andy at 2.
I was gonna say we had 2 very different reasons for having Andy Reid right there. Mine was cheeseburgers at practice. Yours is oh yeah, everybody really likes it, But I love it. I love it. All right. Well, my number 2, I have Dan Campbell. And I think that again, just the culture, the grit. I feel like if I was on a team in the NFL, it would be the one that goes for on it on 4th down every time. I mean, think about it. Like when you play Madden or when you play NCAA, like we punting? What are we doing here? No, we're not punting. So
Right.
yeah, so give me Dan Campbell at 2.
Love that pick because he is my number 1. Motor City Dan Campbell. I would be elated to be coached by this guy. Hearing some of his I think interviews where he's just practicing blocking on a chair and just throwing the chair like across the room. And there's nothing more than I would want to be blasting Metallica or Pantera with him and then just screaming at each other in the face, getting hyped up at the
He
top of
seems
your
like one of those
lungs.
guys that you just like look him right in the eye and just go ah
Just
and
yeah,
run out of the
exactly.
tunnel.
Just absolutely screaming before you go on the field, hyped up. He's hyped up on like 10 cups of coffee. And there's nothing more than I would want to be coached by Dan Campbell. Give me him at 1.
Electric. Electric. Well, there we go. Well, it seems like we've got a lot of coaches that are overlapping, but my number 1 is actually going to be McVay. And I think that
Nice.
and the main reason why is I think obviously like you mentioned, like the intelligence is there, like the passion is there. I already talked about it earlier with D'Amico. He's got one of those guys that's known for grabbing him by the belt, right? And I think that the coolest part about McVay is that I think that he's really kind of found that perfect level of a current coach that has like the media involvement, right? Like I feel like I see him pretty readily on, like a NFL network or like on even on a Barstool type thing, right? Like he's a guy that you can see his personality like creep through and it doesn't seem like they're two different people, right? Like he's always kind of in McVay mode. He's going to tell you how it is. It's almost like a new age Belichick is kind of the way that I see it in a way. So give me McVay as my number one.
I want to touch on the passion. I do like that. He seems if you have a head coach, you want him to be as passionate, even when the times are tough. When they just got beat pretty bad against the Cardinals, it seems like that's somebody you want to be coach for. If he has the same passion and effort putting into every game plan for each week, I would want to be able to put that same effort to help him out.
Brick wall energy type thing. Again, I will tell you, obviously, we're only talking about current coaches right now, but one of my favorite coaches of all time is definitely Pete Carroll. And I think that, again, that definitely would have been a top, if he was still coaching, definitely would have been the top name on my list.
That's something we might have to do. Coach, former NFL coaches, legendary coaches that you want to be coached by. So that's something we might have to do for another top five.
I like it. Do you have a honorable mention right now if Pete Carroll's mine?
I there's some. I thought just as a meme, Doug Peterson. Josh would send me stuff about Doug Peterson about ending every meeting about, all right, let's go eat some ice cream. Like I just want to go eat ice cream with Doug Peterson
Hey, it's
after
not
every
bad.
football practice.
If we're conceding and we're taking guys that are doing food, though, I'm rocking with Andy Reid before I'm rocking with cheeseburgers with Andy Reid before I'm getting ice cream with Doug Peterson.
That no, I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah, yeah,
totally
yeah. Yeah.
understandable. But that'll wrap up the top five, and that'll wrap up the show. Thank you for everybody tuning in. Please go subscribe right now, like the video, go our TikTok. I'll have all the links in the description. 5 stars on Spotify. We truly appreciate it. We truly appreciate our fans, and that'll be another episode of the Bros of the Bleachers podcast. Later, bros.